Hey everyone, this is Manly Bastard, and welcome back to Menherafflesia. Previously, we completed all the routes. Now we're going to see what's in the secret flower bed using the password we've acquired. So, putting together the password, I believe it's like Kaze no Oto, or something like that. So let me see if I remember correctly. Kaze... Do we do spaces or no? Okay, it was right. No spaces. The wind blows. I can hear the sound of the wind. See, I told you. Cause Kaze. Is this the outside? Have I finally gone out? Open your eyes. Isn't the sky beautiful? Gone out? What do you mean? Who are you? A blue sky and a flower field spread out before my eyes. Misato. Hey, isn't it a wonderful world? This world is so beautiful. Here, somebody has planted a flower field. Somebody has raised these flowers, and one by one, they bloom. It might have been you, or it might have been me, or it might have been someone else. I hope that you too will raise a flower. Depending on the one who raised it, the seed might bloom into a completely different flower. From the flower that you grow, what kind of color might bloom? I feel like I recognize you somehow. We always justify our actions with no regard for others' feelings. We commit numerous sins without even noticing them, even though we know our violent actions will hurt others. Even though we know our cruel words will hurt others. We all know this, but pretend not to know. The more we sin, the more we avert our eyes and push the blame on others. We do not realize we are the guilty ones. What was that? I saw a flash of something. You knew as well, didn't you? That in this world of ours, even a simple truth like, I love you, will become twisted and distorted. A terribly cruel and irrational world. Maybe it was just the flowers behind the character being transparent I saw. The flower of dreams bloomed in a vortex of madness. A flower of love, madness and oddity, in its sadness, beauty. Many horrors flowed from the flowers I raised. Are we some kind of deity? Soon, no one could distinguish dreams from reality. But even so, no matter how terrible this world may be, we cannot live anywhere else. No matter how cruel this world may be, we have nowhere else to call home. No matter how irrational this world may be, we are not permitted to end our life. And blending of the flowers, so we will set our roots in this rotten earth. And bloom into hideous flowers. Blooming but once in the jungle of life. True end. Menherafflesia of this mortal life. It's a very symbolic ending. Also change the title screen too. Hey everyone, this is Manly Bass here, and that is it for Menherafflesia, the kind of spiritual sequel to Mixoray. At least that's how I kind of think of it. So, little side note, if you haven't seen this kind of post-video thing before, I've done it in a few videos. I hope to do a little more. And of course, I also see usually when I do this, I see sometimes comments, people saying, like, oh, it's the first time I've ever seen Manly. So, if you've never seen me before, check out my social networks. Check out, I got some, like, also Manly Talks videos. I appear in those too. Currently I am scruffy manly, meaning I haven't shaved in a little while, so I look a little scruffy. But anyway, so, Menherafflesia, it is one of the last kind of traditional yandere works that Sharon did, before they kind of shifted off to the more visual novel style and stuff like that. And is it kind of like a magnum opus or something, or peak of the work? And no, I would say Yanderella is, because of the... Yanderella had this kind of sweet balance of where it took advantage of its fourth wall. My hair's getting my eyes. And it had like a little bit of humor. It didn't go a little too edgy, but it had a little bit of that edginess bite. So, Yanderella, I think, is the peak of that kind of writing they were doing. Some of their new works are kind of interesting and stuff like that. I feel like they're going in an interesting direction. But Yanderella is the peak as far as that old gen. And maybe, there's another one of the earliest ones where it had a very happy ending, where you just kind of, you hooked up with the yandere in the end, and you went to have a loving family until that sequel where you play as the kid who accidentally pushed off the girl that was bullying him. But yeah, so, Menherafflesia, it's certainly... Okay, so... Its writing is not really good. Sometimes it's actually pretty good. It kind of jumps between it. But it does this kind of funny thing where sometimes the writing is really going somewhere. Like there's some real depth to it. And then kind of gets pulled back. Pulled back by it being inherently being a yandere game. And the expectation that at the end, our rogue character has to die. So it loses some of its depth. And some of the routes, they're all about 50 minutes. So they're a little bit too short, maybe. Like they could have maybe used about 20 more minutes more of the character development for the girls. But for the most part, it's an enjoyable experience, but not necessarily in a good way. That's how I would describe it. It's an emotional roller coaster. So, as I was playing it, there was times where, at first I would mock the characters, but then, I actually kind of feel kind of sad. They actually do have some interesting backstories and stuff, I felt sad for the otaku girl, and I you don't know if she's actually a Mahou shoujo, or if she's just faking it, and she's just tuning, or she's just trying to be what this Itaro fantasizes about, and then the other girl who's the cliche kind of Oni-chan childhood friend type, you know, and she has this really tragic backstory. Or even Jasmine, the main girl anyway. You know, she doesn't really have like a huge in-depth backstory, but just her whole little arc and how she was so like when she started beating herself to death, like it's just it really it's a real emotional roller coaster. So you get kind of like scared, you get you feel sadness, you feel some concern for these characters and everything, like etc. etc. So it's actually pretty effective in that. And in some ways it's kind of cheap. You know, like it's got a short time frame, so it's like we gotta hit everything out really fast. So we gotta like shock the viewer and the player, and we gotta make him like feel sad, and we gotta make him feel annoyed, and so on and so on. So it's kind of cheap. It's kind of hitting you a little hard. It's very exploitive, but exploitive media does have a place in society, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. You know, like I used to watch. If you ever watch 60s and 70s kind of horror, kind of trash films and whatnot, there was that kind of genre of like exploitive stuff. So I enjoy Charon games to that extent, of like an emotional roller coaster, not necessarily of a like, oh, this is so well written and this is the finest of the yanderes. I will enjoy my yanderes with a fine wine and maybe some cheese. And cheese, and I mean literal cheese, not like Manly Badass Heroes puns kind of cheese. Maybe a little bit of that too, because we have a cheesy sense of humor. Anyway, you know, it like I said, it deserves to exist. It's kind of enjoyable in its own way, and that's how I kind of see Menherafflesia and some of the other Charon games. The newer ones are trying to be a little more serious, I would say. But this stuff, this era stuff, that's how it kind of was. Once again, Yanderella was that sweet balance of the humor and not trying to be too shocking. And it had that kind of fourth wall twist in the end and everything that eventually Doki Doki would come in and make very famous. But overall, it's a fun, kind of solid experience. I was never bored. There were some very memorable scenes in a horrifying way. And it's an interesting gimmick. So I'll give it a lot of credit on that. And there was another point I had to make here. Oh, the story. So there's a funny thing about this story here. And when you get to the true ending, it's pretty confusing to me. Because the character you meet who's narrating and you meet in the true ending is a character from one of Charon's most oldest games. And I don't know her backstory. I don't know how she relates to this whole flower thing or this whole storyline and whatnot. And I feel like some of the other characters may even be references to that, though they're older games too. And these aren't translated. These are pre-Makoto Nikki and all of them. So I don't know if she's some kind of weird deity, because Charon does like that kind of stuff, where like characters might be godlike, or there might be some dream power, or in one of the games there was a like a time god. So I'm not sure if there is a power thing here, or if it's mostly symbolic for how your life choices, in a sense, blooms a flower. And depending on what your choices are, that flower can be bad or good. So I really don't know. I might use Google Translate to kind of poke around these games a little bit and try my best to try to figure out what the general plot is. And of course, if you speak Japanese, or you read it rather, because these aren't spoken games, if you know anything about these games, then by all means, fill in the comments with the information. I'm sure your fellow commenters and me myself actually would quite appreciate it. But yeah, that's it for Menherafflesia and my commentary about it. I do have I'm gonna make some kind of like semi-post video, not necessarily of this series, but my thoughts of the yandere genre in general. Based, because I read some comments as I was going through the videos and about some people's opinions and stuff, and I have some strong opinions of my own about it, so I will actually make a dedicated video talking about that. And it's probably gonna be a new thing that's gonna start coming to the channel. So look forward to that pretty soon, actually. Anyway, so thank you all for watching me play Menherafflesia. I'll see you guys later, and take it easy.